Justin. Thank you for being here. We're going to do some introductions and then let you introduce yourself.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
So I'm PJ Angelini, and I'm the Public Affairs Officer for Clatsop County.
And I'm Jennifer Benoit, and I'm Senior Communications Specialist for Clatsop County.
And I'm Justin Dersham. I'm a sergeant with the Clatsop County Sheriff's Office, and I supervise the Clatsop County Animal Shelter, as well as the Animal Control Division.
Awesome. And you are our first podcast guest.
That's awesome. It's great to be first.
Yay. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So we wanted to bring you here to talk a little bit about the Purrfect Storm.
Oh my, what a summer it's been. Yeah, early in the summer, we started to realize that our pet numbers coming into shelter were more than our capacity could hold. We kind of ended up with this perfect storm of we've got more animals in need of coming to the shelter than we have space in the shelter to house them. And trying to expand my programs to be able to accommodate those numbers as much as possible was a challenge. I reached out to you all who helped develop this campaign to boost our adoptions, and I have to say it's worked.
And it was fun, really fun to do.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It was definitely fun on our end. It was really good to see those adoption numbers climb, particularly in dogs. You know, with the Purrfect Storm, we were getting a lot of cats. Kitten season starts up in the spring and it goes all through the summer and sometimes through the fall into the winter before it finally slacks off. This was no exception this year. We had a lot of kittens that were driving our adoptions. But dogs can be tougher to move. They take more infrastructure. They're bigger animals. And so even though they're great friendly companions that are really easy to bond with, it seems and feels sometimes like much more of a commitment than a cat or a kitten to people. And so we don't tend to move them as fast as we do cats and kittens. This campaign especially helped on the dog side where we were able to get some dogs out. And a special thanks to Jennifer for actually adopting one of those dogs.
The campaign totally worked on me.
But that said, our capacity numbers, what we see out in the community is not as dire as it was through the summer. It definitely made a dent, and we're bringing in some more help, but the work at the shelter never ends. So if anybody out there is still interested in adopting a pet, we still have pets for adoption.
Tell me a little bit about the volunteers that you work with.
I have the best volunteers in the county, and I will argue with anyone who says otherwise. We have a fantastic group of volunteers. They're mostly managed through a nonprofit group that exists in the shelter as well, Clatsop Animal Assistance. And they help out with everything from cleaning cat litter boxes to walking dogs to transporting animals to adoption events and vets' offices and whatever else they need throughout the day. We have a very small paid staff, and so we make up all of our shortfalls both in budget and in personnel work and the physical labor that needs to be done with our volunteers. We've got a really healthy group right at the moment, but we're always looking for more hands because schedules are tough and people's commitment levels change throughout the year.
What are some of the more unique experiences you've had with animals while you've been managing the shelter?
Oh my goodness, I got to think about that one for just a half a second. You know, the shelter is set up for cats and dogs, and I assumed when I came here that was going to be my norm. It is, but the exceptions are always fun. So this last week, we had a pair of geese trying to figure out how to turn a dog shelter into acceptable habitation for a couple of geese was interesting. The first week that I was here, I inherited a pair of finches. We've had a hamster. We've had a pair of rabbits. I thought for half of a minute we were going to end up with a couple of pigs and a horse. Thank God those managed to find their actual homes before they came to us. And so, yeah, you never really know what's going to come in. And then in terms of adventures, you're dealing with animals. That's always an adventure. You never know what they're going to do. You know, we've had our fair share of bites and scratches and bumps along the way. And then we've had those, sad stories where, somebody will take a bad turn in their health and we have to say goodbye. And it's never fun. But for the most part, I think we've been very successful in moving the vast majority of our pets through to successful adoptions and homes. And it's really good to see those success stories on the other side where it's like, okay, we actually saved this pet. We made a difference in this animal's life.
Have you had any animals try to escape?
Oh my, yes. We had a husky that met us at the front door once when we unlocked the shelter in the morning and came in. Later that same afternoon, my kennel worker came running back to me and said, I need your help right now. Ran into the room where he was kept, and he was on top of the 7-foot stainless steel gate and just kind of perched up there. They needed somebody as tall as myself to reach up and carry him down.
And you are how tall?
I'm 6'4".
Okay.
We had I was at a family barbecue around the corner from the shelter, and I get a call that the alarm is going off at the shelter. And soon after that, I get in touch with a deputy who responded to see what was going on, and he told me that a dog had escaped his kennel and let itself into the play yard. I asked him which dog, and he described it, and it was, my first thought was, it had to be that dog. Mm-hmm. It was a 220 or 200 or so pound English Mastiff Cane Corso cross. So this is one of those dogs where if he got loose into the community, he really is kind of friendly, but he certainly doesn't look that way. Mm-hmm. He's very smart and quite an escape artist.
How did he get out?
Climbed his gate.
Wow.
So as a result of that, we put lids on about half of our kennels now. So those animals that are possibly escape artists, which is an actual term we use in the shelter, they get the more fortified kennels. And it's not isolated to dogs. Actually, just this last week, my kennel worker opened the door first thing in the morning, walked in, and was met with a cat in the hallway that had let itself out of its kennel, and then managed to actually open the door to the cat unit and let itself into the common hallway.
Wow.
Oh. When I was there visiting animals and taking pictures and stuff, I was in the cat room, and I met Parkour. Mm-hmm. And Parkour earned that name, I'm sure, because the whole time I was in there, I was just jumping from one thing to the next all over the place. And then as soon I didn't know what I was doing, I just opened up the door to leave, and Parkour landed on my shoulder and was like headed out the door.
He literally bounces off the walls. It's not a figurative term for that.
Oh. And is he still with you, or is he adopted?
He has been adopted. He has gone to a, which we're very excited about. There's a fit for everybody out there. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to find them, but they're there.
That's so good to hear.
It is. It is. What's the longest time an animal's been at the shelter?
Oh my, I'd have to go back and look to see who actually holds the record, but it's beyond a year.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, they sometimes they can hang out for quite a while, especially if they start by hanging out without being able to be made available for adoption. So some of the criteria we have for a pet before it can be made available is we work through their veterinary issues, and we work through sometimes some pretty significant behavior issues. I mean, these are shelter pets. They've come to us for a variety of reasons. A lot of times it's because they weren't successful in their original homes. And that's either because they were expensive due to some health conditions that the owner couldn't manage, or they had some behavior issues that the owner couldn't handle. So we try to get them to the other side of those things before we make them available so that they will be successful in their next home. And that can take a while. So we might have a pet that's in the shelter for 2-3 months that's just kind of hanging out while we work through some stuff before we start looking for a potential adopter. In the case of behavior issues, those things aren't just going to disappear overnight. So even though we've made significant progress, we're still waiting for somebody who's able to take what we've started and move it through the next phase. And so, that's obviously not going to be a novice pet owner when that person comes in. So we're looking for somebody a bit more special than just, hey, I feel like I want a dog in my life and I've never had one before, right? This is going to be more like, oh yeah, I know Belgian Malinois, and I'm looking for a Belgian Malinois to train to do this, right?
So what kind of dogs are those?
The Belgian Malinois are what you see most police agencies and militaries working with.
Oh, okay.
And we've actually been seeing quite a few of them in. I've got a beautiful 3-year-old that's in right now, who we just made available this week, but he's a perfect example of that. This guy started his life a little rough. He's had very little training and very little socialization. There's a really good dog sitting right there, but he needs an experienced hand who knows what they're doing to try to turn him into the best version that he can be.
Sweet.
My dog that I just adopted, he had some skills. Like somebody definitely had worked on him a little bit, but he's in heavy training right now. We didn't realize he got, I guess there's a rating. He was rated D, which is like not great on leash.
So not D for dog, but D for
He gets a D in class.
All of our dogs, when they come in, they get a temperament test. And there's a whole battery of tests that we give them, from do they take food well, or do they get growly when you try to take it away from them? Are they good with other dogs? Will they tolerate having their feet and ears grabbed, touched, or tugged on? And they're rated between A and D. So A is a dog that pretty much is just a rug that's going to lay there for you. And B is definitely on the challenging end of the scale. It actually does go one step further, where we start adding S's in front of those characters. And that means that this dog has to be handled by staff and trainers only. So some of them are, and those are going to be the ones that have to work through some stuff before they can be made available, because they've got some issues.
Like, people have no issues, right?
I think there was a famous horse trainer. He said, I never met a horse with horse problems. I always met horses with people problems. Well, it's the same thing over here with both cats and dogs. They speak a different language, and you have to learn to speak it. Sometimes you get a dog that is A's and B's across every rating until you get to the leash, and then he's a D. In the case of Jennifer's big happy goof, his biggest issue in life is he doesn't know how big and how strong he is. So, if he acted like this and he was a dachshund, he'd be no big deal at all. But he's not. He's a big dog.
He's a big dog.
So he can pull you around a little bit, and that changes the game.
Yeah, and we just recently lost a dog who had also been big and challenging on a leash. So we knew what we were getting into, and that as soon as he walked in that door, he got started on his training.
That's good.
It's been fun. He would be proud of him.
Good.
He might be a C.
Back to C already. We get some people who have some pretty incredible talents, and we don't see it until we see them show up and start to apply them. It's pretty fun to watch it happen in real time. It's fun to watch these dogs turn a corner. It's fun to watch these cats come out of their shell. The geese that we just had, when they first came in, they were really tough to catch. They didn't like to be handled. They were only with us for 5 days, and they got to the point where they were waiting for us to pick them up and carry them to the yard in their outside time in the morning. So,
that's so sweet.
They adapt pretty quick as soon as a new routine gets introduced. And routine's huge for any pet. You need to make sure that if you're handling things in a way that they know what the expectations are, that solves a lot of behavior issues right there.
So what are some 3 tips for anyone who is a current pet owner if they're like, my pet is a 3 and I want to get my pet to an A?
Consistency in routine, consistency in timing of things, consistency in commands and reinforcing specific behaviors. That's going to be the number one thing that you can do. After that, I would say don't reward bad behavior. That doesn't mean that you need to discipline for bad behavior all the time, especially with shelter pets. Some of these come from homes where maybe they've been previously abused. And so you have to be careful, because if you come on them too hard with the negative reinforcement, you can shut the dog down. You can shut a cat down. On the other hand, just giving them no feedback is a good thing, because they're not going to feel like they got anything out of it. And then you immediately follow that up with positive reinforcement by asking them to do something that you know they will, that's a win, that's wanted behavior. And they're going to learn, okay, when I do this, nothing happens, but when I do this, I get fun treats, or I get to go play with the ball again, or whatever the reward system for the animal is. So it's just doing that. I mean, anybody who's ever been in parenting, this is parenting on a micro scale in a very short timeline. And you just have to be very, very intentional about it. I don't know if that was 3 tips, but those are the best ones I can think of.
Okay.
It was very good advice.
Yes, it is.
So going back to the geese, did they get adopted, or did their owner find them?
They got adopted.
That is amazing.
Yes. A wonderful woman contacted us and said that she already had an established flock with exactly this kind of geese, and said, I've got room for them and I'd love to take them. And I was happy to give them up, because the dog kennel was no place for geese.
No, so the dogs probably liked the geese.
We didn't let that happen. They were kept in an area that we reserve for only temporary holding for dogs. So this isn't a place where dogs go hang out and are kept full time. We were able to isolate them away from the dogs for the most part, just for the few days we had to hold them before we could move them on to a new home.
Early on in the campaign, a bunch of kittens in a box with their mom dropped off or found.
Yeah.
What's happened with that?
We've had a couple of those this year, actually. We've got, let's see here, we've got the tote kittens, we've got the camo kittens. Tote kittens were named because they showed up in a plastic tote. The camo kittens showed up in a box in a camo blanket. And we already had the box kittens, so we didn't name those the box kittens because we had another group of kittens show up in a box. Some of those kittens are just getting to the size where they're able to move into adoption and just became available this week. We had to grow them up a little bit before we could get them their vaccinations and get them scheduled through some stuff. And the others have already been adopted out and are on their way to their new homes.
It's great news.
It is, yes.
Yeah, so for the most part, we can save them. Every once in a while, we get someone that comes in who's just way too small and way too sick, and they don't make it. And that's always sad. But when we can save most of them, that's where we choose to focus.
Tell us more about licensing.
Dog licensing. Okay, first off, it's the law. It might be the most unobserved law in Clatsop County. I'd like to see that change. It's around for really important reasons. The biggest reason for licensing is rabies. In fact, the law follows the vaccination schedule for rabies. This is a very, very old law, back when rabies was a much bigger concern in the United States. Most of the states have something similar. So if you're hearing this and you're not even from the area, I promise you your local jurisdiction probably has something similar going on. So you'll need to get your dog licensed. What we need is proof of ownership. That's the easy part. And then we need proof of vaccination from a veterinarian for the rabies. We offer our licenses on a 1-year schedule or a 3-year schedule, and that follows the vaccination. Your vet will offer you the same options when they give you the rabies shot. Rabies is not a complicated vaccination to give, but it has to be given by a vet specifically so that a veterinarian can generate those records for licensing.
Okay.
And it's because rabies is such a scary disease. You can also give a rabies vaccination to a cat. I very much recommend it, especially here in Clatsop County. We did have a positive rabies case in a bat this year in Clatsop County, and I would say it's far more likely that your cat is going to get into a mix-up with a bat than your dog will. Mm-hmm. And since that's the animal we know has rabies here, that's where your biggest risk is. So make sure you get the vaccination done and then come in and see us, and we'll get you up to date on your licensing. If for some reason you have a pet that is a service animal, and I mean like we're carrying certificates, this dog performs a service for you, the fees for those licensing are waived in those cases. For the rest of us who have pets, because we love to have our companions at home, there are fees that are associated, but they're not exorbitant. We're not looking to make money on this. This is not a revenue builder for us. This is about compliance and making sure that the pets in the community are healthy and not a risk.
And it is pretty easy. I filled out that application online and brought it to my vet, and they were able to fill it out. But I know that you guys will give licenses at the shelter too. If someone...
We do. We absolutely will give licenses at the shelter. And if for some reason you come in and you don't have that vaccination yet, and you're looking at it and going, oh shoot, I called my vet, but they're booked out forever. Just communicate with us a little bit about that, and we can figure out how to make whatever accommodations in that scheduling need to happen, just so long as you're being proactive and you're actually trying to get your dog licensed.
What about cats? Do they need to be licensed?
Cats do not need to be licensed. The law only specifies for dogs. Historically, we have offered a cat license, but it's very, very rare. And most of the time, really what it is a certificate for us saying we're aware of this cat, we're aware it's healthy and has all of its vaccinations, as a requirement for certain landlords to bring that pet into like an apartment complex. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't happen often. But if you end up in a spot where your landlord's like, I need a license for that cat before this happens, give us a call. We might be able to help you out.
And the geese.
Yeah. Do they need to be licensed?
Yes, big question.
No. Livestock animals do not need a license. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Justin.